So now I'd like to introduce you today's moderator, Professor Shibasaki. Professor Shibasaki, can I hand over to you?
Yes, of course, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, thank you very much for introducing me. I'm Ryosuke Shibasaki. I'm a professor of the University of Tokyo. And I'm very glad to be here to introduce this webinar for you with the title of the Space Applications in Motion. The time is rather short, just 1 hour, but I hope that you will enjoy the, let's say, the talks by the many presentations, the speakers. And for the webinar today, actually, we will have 2 sessions. At the first, we will invite 3 eminent speakers talking about the, let's say, what's new, recent trend, and also the applications. We will hear the talks by the very active kind of people who is now trying to conduct a kind of business using space-based services, typically the localization or positioning services. And also at the same time, let me just make a brief explanation or this introduction of the background of this seminar. And this seminar itself is jointly organized by the MGA, Multi-Gnss Asia, and also the S-Booster. MGA, as you know, is a kind of, let's say, cooperative campaign or outreach activities by the expert of the GNSS or kind of satellite-based positioning service experts. And so far, MGA basically focused some sort of the introduction or dissemination of the latest positioning technologies. While the S-Booster is another very powerful and important activities, international activities, of course, that try to promote the kind of innovative and new business using the space technology. So anyway, today we will have a very happy and a very informative combination or collaboration of those 2 efforts. Firstly, and the technological, actually, the descriptions or kind of tutorials, and also the latest applications of such kind of technologies. So anyway, the session 1 will focus on a kind of recent trend and, of course, applications aiming at the launching some sort of the new business. Okay, so at the first, I would like to invite the talk by Tanapum Sukanjanasiri. Very sorry for my very poor pronunciation. And actually, he will actually talk about the parking lot management services in Thailand based on the positioning services. Okay, so may I invite Mr. Tanabu Jakana, Sukanjanasiri? Okay, do you hear me?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so may I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let's start. So thanks, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Thanapum Sukanjanasiri, CEO. Sorry, everyone see my screen?
Yes, no problems.
Okay, so again, my name is Thanapum Sukanjanasiri, CEO and co-founder of Jotsabai, parking lot sharing and smart parking platform. Today, I would like to thank you, MGA and S-Booster, for the invitation to be the speaker today. So we are from Thailand, and we are the Thai startup who are tackling the big problem in the city, which is parking. And parking is a real pain of people. So I myself also found this problem as well. We drive a car and it's quite difficult to get parking. In Bangkok, we have like 10 million cars in a big city, but the parking infrastructure was not designed to support the growth of mobility and transportation. So we saw the problem and we come up with the idea that why don't we let people can make people to find the parking lot. So we create a platform called จอดสบาย จอดสบาย is a Thai word mean easy parking. So we try to connect people from the one who are looking for a parking lot and the one who has some space and they can give the service as a parking lot. So in easy words, so we start a business as an Airbnb for parking. And in 2018, so we launched the website that can match people and people can listing the parking place on our platform. In the beginning of 2020, we just launched the mobile application. So this one we use GPS technology and location-based tracking, so that when people or the user use the application, so we get their location, and then the nearby parking space will pop up in the application, so people can search and book for the parking. Also, they can search for the location and make booking on our application. After proceed the payment, so the application will navigate the user travel along the way to the parking space, and at the end, so they will get the QR code to get the entry to the parking space. So here from now we have like more than 10,000 traffic each month. So people still need parking lot. The demand is huge, but the supply side, the parking side is still insufficient. So our challenge is to acquire more and more parking space on our platform to supply to the demand. So our parking space in our platform, so we have three types. So the first one is personal property. So it's a kind of sharing economy model. So you just listing the space in front of your home, in front of and the space in the condominium as well. So we have commercial parking space and commercial building, for example, hotel, hospital, office building on our platform. So when the user make a booking on our application, so then our application will navigate them to the parking that they want. So we try to gather all the parking information and parking space to support them. So here after we use the GPS location base, we gather all the information. We got abundance of information for people who are searching for parking lot. We know where they would like to go. So in this case, we can do some data analysis to analyze where the demand. So when we know where people want parking space the most, so we can go to some specific area and try to acquire more parking space to them. And also along the way that they are traveling to the parking space, so we know how long it takes from them to the destination. So along the way, and we know where they want to go. So along the way, we can create some like promotion, marketing, advertising, and show to them directly. So we know the demand, we know their information, so we can serve them better and get better user experience. So here for จอดสบาย we try to build up the ecosystem for parking. So in present, the parking operator will operate in offline mode. And then, so we create the application and send people from the online application to the parking space. And here, what we believe is, so in the next chapter of the mobility, so there will be like the autonomous car and EV charger thing. All those kind of things need some infrastructure to support the growth of those kind of thing. So จอดสบาย will be there. We will be there to serve with our space. So, and here is about us. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that must be a very useful for services because, yeah, at the center of the Bangkok, we usually have a lot of difficulty of finding out the parking spaces. Okay, Thank you very much again. And let me actually invite the next speaker. Actually, he has academia background, Professor Mahfitur Rahman, Bangladesh University of Engineering Technology Buet. And he will actually introduce the applications of the positioning services for the logistics. Okay, floor is yours, Mahfitur.
Yeah, thank you, Professor
Yes.
Shibazaki. May I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes. Okay, no problems.
Yes. Basically, I want to show the use of space technology for sustainable transport of goods in Bangladesh. Good practice, Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the transport of goods is a huge problem. The basic problems are because of the cost, the time, and the fact that the vehicles have to return empty after sending the goods. So in this regard, an initiative is started by GIM, Goods in Motion, which uses the space technology for logistics. So this is a startup in Bangladesh, and we from academia supported the startup for transport of goods. So basically, the basic reason for increased transport cost is the traffic. As you can see in Bangladesh, the traffic is huge, and most of the transport cost is consumed by the middleman, by the vendor, rather than the end service provider or the end client getting the real benefit. So the basic application has these issues, which increases the efficiency, improves the environment, and is been contributing huge in the mega construction projects. There is a scope for economic empowerment and increases road safety. So basically, the problem, as I mentioned, is that the vehicles return empty after they send their goods to the destination, and there are some competitions for equal access. So basically, what this startup does is it gets registration of service providers, which are the vehicles who provide vehicle, and the clients. And under the service providers, there are registration for drivers as well. So they can take note of who is good and who is bad. And this company also provides intermodal services like river and road. And from the space technology, as we can track the vehicles, the fuel efficiency and optimum route and less wastage of fuel, all these are covered. And as you can see, the transportation cost reduces significantly per ton per kilometer when this system is introduced compared to our neighboring countries. So in Bangladesh, as I mentioned, 60% of the return trips are without the loads. So the query by the client when it seeks some transport system is matched by the location of the available vehicle. And these vehicles are mostly inquired by the institutions or big agencies in these days rather than the individual clients. And as you can see, there are a number of infrastructure projects in Bangladesh, and there this transportation or this logistics support system has a huge potential because of the transparency. In Bangladesh, in the transportation sector, the non-transparency is a big issue. Pilferage is a big issue. And as I mentioned, the cost is around actually 3 times than the cost this company is providing the transportation for. So transparency for donor-funded projects are very important because end-to-end monitoring of goods for shipment, for real-time monitoring is very important. So better visibility of on the ground activities and the transactions are important, and the tracking performance of and the quality of the subject, the provider is important, and accuracy in forecasting. I mean, when the goods will reach its destination and when the payment will be made is important. Actually, this startup provides the total fund management system, and they provide dashboard for this sort of support at the corporate level. So it gives good incentive for economic empowerment for good drivers, because the client can choose the driver even, and when the different transport providers quote for the given trip, which is sent to the app by the client or the person who needs the service, then the client can make a selection of the proper vehicle or the cost, or based on the driver whose reputation or marking is there. So this sort of system has good opportunity for new entrepreneurs who are solving the last mile logistic challenges, and drivers, helpers are opening their shops. They are being encouraged to get into this system because there is virtually no middleman. And this data these companies gathering or generating has huge potential for improving safety and security, especially in the context of Bangladesh. And this also has the scope for monitoring drivers' behavior, and based on that, it can rate the driver for future. So choosing the best route reduces the congestion. So there are a number of economic benefits besides business, and you can see all those here. Basically, the less congestion, less return of empty vehicles are the major benefits, and this does not need any physical marketplace for people to go, because earlier we needed to go to the marketplace to find a vehicle who will meet our need and go to our desired destination, and which was very time consuming. And the profitability for the end users and end service providers are much enhanced. And this is where you can communicate for the further service. I would say this is an excellent service provided in the context of Bangladesh for logistics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Moffitt. Yes, logistics is always a kind of headache, actually, in many developing countries. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so then I would like to invite the final speaker for the first session. The speaker would be the Dr. Lee Chan-ju, the UNSCAP, and he's Officer of the Economic Affairs. And his talk will focus on the sustainable transportation or mobility services. Okay, Dr. Lee, would you kindly start your talk?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen.
Okay, yeah, we can see your desktop.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Chang Lee. I'm an Economic Affairs Officer with the Transport Division, UNSCAP, which stands for United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. I think my presentation will be a little bit different because I'm more focusing on the policy perspective. So actually, I'm the focal point for smart transport systems and currently a couple of leading smart transport related projects. I'm going to briefly explain about some status, challenges, and issues for smart transport systems in Asia Pacific from the policy perspective, and also some examples how we can use GIS and Gnss in the project. I hope this will be of interest to the audience. Before I'm talking about smart transport system, I just want to give some brief overview of UNSCAP. As one of the 5 regional commissions under the United Nations systems, UNSCAP was established in 1947 as a regional arm of the United Nations in Asia Pacific. In fact, there are 5 regional commissions around the world. As you can see the map on the right side, UNSCAP is only intergovernmental body in Asia and the Pacific under United Nations systems. UNSCAP is the largest among 5 regional commissions, which covers more than 60% of the world population and comprises 53 member countries and 9 associate members. In terms of transport is one of the key programs in UNSCAP. To achieve the Sustainable Development Goal in 2030, we are covering smart transport systems, including intelligent transport systems, road safety, urban and rural transport, Asian highways, intra-Asian railways, triport, maritime connectivity, and transport logistics and facilitation. Basically, overall, we cover most transport fields except air transport. Let's focus on the smart transport. What are smart transport systems? I believe most audience already know the concept of ITS, which is Intelligent Transport Systems, and that is also under smart transport systems by our definition. There are lots of different definitions for smart transport systems. However, recently we defined the smart transport systems as an agglomeration of diverse technologies that enhance the sustainability of smart transportation in a safer and smart and greener way. In the Asia-Pacific region, smart transport systems grow very fast. According to the study, as you can see the two graphs on the right side, Asia and the Pacific show the fastest growth in the world from 2015 to 2024. It is expected that the Asia-Pacific region will be the second largest market in the world in 2024. This means there are lots of potentials that we can consider smart transport systems in the region. Of course, in terms of GIS and GNS uses, there will be huge potential according to the growth of these smart transport systems. For sustainable development goals, smart transport systems are directly and directly related. For example, goal 7, goal 9, goal 11, and goal 13. I don't want to go details because of limited time. But smart transport system is quite related to the sustainable development goals. Then, what are the main challenges and problems for smart transport systems in the region? Let me show you one chart. As you can see on the right side, from 13 sample countries, here red box indicates the stage 1, which is the initiation stage for the development of smart transport systems. As you can see the red line, the initiation of each member countries is quite different. One member country started smart transport systems from 1970s, while some countries started from 2010s. That is, there is a huge gap among member countries for the development level of smart transport systems. In a nutshell, 4 major challenges are noticed in the region. As I just showed in the previous slide, there is an imbalanced development of smart transport technologies. That is, some world-leading countries exist in the region, but many countries are still in infancy. This might come from huge policy gaps among member countries for these smart transport systems. The third one is disharmonized and unstandardized systems. For example, there are different types of smart cards, different interfaces of electric cooling systems. Lastly, different approaches are found for developing connected autonomous vehicles and smart mobility, which need to use GIS or GNS technologies. These issues will eventually hinder the sustainable growth in the Asia-Pacific region. So what are we doing now? To resolve such challenging issues, Transport Division already completed 2 major activities in smart transport field: the development of policy framework and the guidelines for the regulatory frameworks, which are the most fundamental to bring more utilization of smart transit systems in this region. In particular, the first regional meeting for smart transit systems with 26 member countries, including 35 delegates, was held in 2019. Based on the result from first regional meeting, 3 more activities has been initiated. First of all, the development of regional roadmap for smart transport systems is currently on the way to develop regional policy plans and strategies. Also considering the advent of new concept of smart mobility, policy guidelines to utilize this technology are being developed with the case study in Southeast Asia. To increase the understanding of smart transport technologies in mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, capacity building activities also has been conducted, targeting 4 sub-regions. And also we already developed like a training modules, how to use smart transport technologies to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. In terms of the utilization of GIS and GNS in smart transport systems, let me show you some examples from case studies in smart mobility project. In this project, we try to assess mobility services in 4 target cities. The example in this slide is for Bangkok case study. To assess mobility services, we conducted 6 steps of analysis. Actually, in each step, we use the GIS or GNS tracked data set. For example, using GIS technologies, we created new spatial unit and population density, number of public transport station stops, and for spatial unit. Also, to identify average travel speed, which is very important to identify what's the problem in this city. We used the open API from Google Maps and Bing Map, which gathered from for cars equipped with the GNSS. With this traffic data and GIS tools, we calculate the average travel speed in each link, as you can see in the left side on the map, even though it's quite small. Average access speeds and times to each zone by public transport. Finally, we identified 5 most vulnerable zones in Bangkok, as you can see on the right side. For these 5 vulnerable zones, we suggested some type of smart mobility options that can provide better efficiency and equity of public transport in this city. So, okay, this is one of the examples how we can use GIS and GNS in our smart transport project. Actually, this is my last project, and let me stop here. And thank you so much. I will take any questions if you might have.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. That is a really good kind of, let's say, presentation to share the kind of policy landscape and also the current applications of GIS and GNSS for the smarter, the transportation of smarter mobility services, envisioning the sustainable development goals. And actually, those 3 speakers have kindly touched upon some of the applications of the GPS or GNSS, is focusing on the, let's say, basically the transportation and including, of course, parking. And in the next session, the experts from the MGA, GNSS experts, will talk about something about the kind of MGA or kind of GNSS technologies behind those applications. And also, actually, I believe that you have kind of burning questions, and you may find some sort of the buttons for Q&A. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments or whatever, just click that button and please write down your questions or comments. And at the end of this, anyway, the seminar or kind of session, we will have a time for handling, anyway, inviting the answers to your questions. Okay, so then in the next session, actually, I will be the first speaker. And yeah, so anyway, let me share my screen. Yes, just a moment. At first, I have to share my screen. Yes, and yeah, let me share. Okay, I hope you could see this. And yeah, anyway, the title of that next session would be the "What's the technology behind?" and ask the MGA experts. So I'm the first expert on that MGA technology. And yeah, anyway, of course, as you know, that positioning services is very purely space-based services, because we usually have more than 100 GNSS or anyway satellite in space. And the individual satellite look like this, and it looks very expensive. And also, but when we add to the ground, you may have the impression like the GNSS usually is just used for the professionals, for professional applications like mapping or construction works or anyway, something like this. But in reality, as you know, that every smartphone have GNSS receivers. So then the information collected through such sort of the devices or smartphones is quite rich in information. For example, actually, this is the trajectory or movement of myself in Tokyo. And probably by associating the location and also the time, you may see the time. Probably you have some sort of the idea about my home location. And also at the same time, you could even identify the, let's say, how many kind of working places around in Tokyo. And also you may see, actually this is international, actually the airport. So you can even count the number of my overseas trip. Of course, it is before COVID-19. Yeah. So the individual point data actually have such enormous and rich information about our daily life. So by using such sort of the data, we can identify, we can explore the very different kind of the applications. And for example, at this moment, we are now actually kind of experiencing a lot of difficulties due to the COVID-19. And actually, this picture or this map of the Tokyo metropolitan area showing the changes of the stay time of the people. So anyway, to try to depict or estimate how much hours the people stay at individual grid cell. So you may see this is a kind of center of Tokyo, but at the same time, actually, this is a Narita or the new Tokyo International Airport. I imagine that you have some experience of landing here to visit Japan. And the blue colors denote that the number of the total stay time of the people decreases a lot. And this is March, so the beginning of the COVID-19 turmoil or in Japan. So you may see that many people do not spend time at all in the international airport because, of course, we saw many cancellations of the overseas trips. But at the same time, the people actually refrain visiting or going to the center of Tokyo in order to avoid the congestion. So you see, let's say slightly blue. And also this area is another international airport that is called Haneda Airport. And this is March. And also you may see this is April. The situation gets much worse. And May, sorry, it's May. Again, the blue, you may find the blue color spreads even to the suburban area of Tokyo. And but after that, June, some sort of the statement of emergency actually have released and has been relaxed. So then the people actually start visiting some specific places, including the center of Tokyo, but the recovery is still rather weak. And also, this is again July because in Japan we have the second wave of the COVID-19 infection spread. And then August, again, the similar, but probably you may see a little bit more decline of the total amount of the stay time. And September, it's get better. And October, but the recovery is very slow. And November, and finally the December, again, you may see some sort of, again, decline because from the end of the November, we have experienced the third wave of the infected patients of the COVID-19. So anyway, such sort of the very detailed economic impact, I mean, geographically, could be even extracted or estimated just by looking at the mobility or the movement patterns of the people. And this is a kind of, let's say, the summary. But when we look at the, when we make a very detailed analysis of the location or the visiting places, we can actually discriminate how much the expenditure for some specific industry sector decreased. For the eating out enterprises, the decrease is very big, while the retail seems to be slightly affected because people actually refrain from going to dinner or kind of restaurants, while they may purchase more goods from the supermarket or shopping, for example, malls. Of course, at the same time, people mobilities have a very strong, actually, the associations with the spread or the explosion of the number of the infected patients. So anyway, by monitoring the people mobility by the GPS or Gnss data, we can actually monitor how the policy affects the, let's say, the decline of the patients, and also for example, the encouragement of the economic, for example, impact. Yeah, so anyway, it's just a very brief introduction of how the GNSS or positioning technologies could be used for the broader range of the socioeconomic actually the applications. And next expert I would like to invite is Dr. Victor Koo. He's from the Singapore Land Authority. And Victor, would you kindly start your talk? I will just stop the desktop sharing of mine.
Yes, thank you, Professor.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yes. Let me share my slides. Okay, let me share my screen here. So just want to check, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, yeah, no problems.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor Shibasaki. And so thank you, the organizer, for having me today here. I'm Victor Koo. I am the director for the Survey and Geomatics Division from the Singapore Land Authority. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the work in Singapore. The title of today's webinar is on mobility and also the technology related to mobility. So I am going to focus on two areas. Later in the slides, I will focus on that. And one of them obviously is GNSS technology. If you see on the slides here, the picture here, this is one of the ground infrastructure. We call it GNSS reference station that we have in Singapore. And that is a very important infrastructure for us to support the future mobility of Singapore. So I'll start by giving you a bit of introduction to Singapore Land Authority, the place where I work in. Basically, we have three main roles in Singapore. We manage the state land and the state property. So these are the government lands and government property for Singapore. We are also a trusted source of land-related information. So land information is our core, as well as we are pushing a lot of geo-related activities in Singapore. So this is related to geo-information, geomatics, engineering, and geospatial data for Singapore. So that's why we are working in this area of GNSS. So let me start by sharing these. Many experts and many researchers put down these 4 points. The future of the mobility will be electric powered, autonomously controlled, shared, and connected. These are the 4 characteristics, I would say, for the future of mobility. We can see some of these now, but a lot of these are still under development. And these 4 characteristics have to be supported by technology, number 1, infrastructure, as well as data. Today, I'm going to focus on the technology, the infrastructure, and the data that would support one of these, which is the autonomously controlled system. And I believe many cities around the world have started to look into development of autonomous vehicle as a mode of transportation for the future. So let's focus on that for this presentation. The technology used in an autonomous vehicle generally can be divided into these 6 types. A camera or a vision-based sensor, LiDAR, which is a laser-based sensor, a radar, of course, a GNSS receiver. You see this diagram that I put up. an initial measurement unit and a distant measurement instrument. So generally these are the sensors or the technology that we can see on an autonomous vehicle. Yeah. So in Singapore, we have started to test and develop some autonomous vehicle locally, and the work started way back in 2014. My team has been working with some of the private sector and some of the researchers here in Singapore in terms of supporting the development we've related to two major areas. So first, of course, is the localization or the location and the map. These are the two main important data and infrastructure that is required to support the operation and the running of the autonomous vehicle. But of course, besides that, on top of that, there are many other sensors and there are many other types of data that is required to ensure that the autonomous vehicle can be operated. So, however, I'm going to only focus on two areas, which is the high resolution map and as well as the precise location. And in this case, it is about our national GNSS positioning infrastructure. So, firstly, the autonomous vehicle will require map, or we call that high definition map. In this case, what you see in the video here, this is point clouds data captured by laser scanning technology, and this is important to start. You need this for the routes in your place to enable autonomous vehicle to be operated. So in Singapore's context, we have captured all this information that will be able to support the operation of an autonomous vehicle. The second technology that I want to focus on is obviously the GNSS technology that give you the location or the position. In Singapore, we have the precise GNSS infrastructure as a reference station that will support the positioning up to very high accuracy. In this case, we are talking about centimeter accuracy in real time. That would be able to drive an autonomous vehicle. They were able to make a vehicle drive by itself. Yeah? So this infrastructure we have put in place since 2006. That was many years back. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. Let me get back to my slides. So the infrastructure that we have in Singapore, which we call a siren in short, when we started it, there are three main applications that we are looking at. Of course, firstly is positioning, which use a very high-end equipment and require very accurate positioning. But increasingly, navigation, and in this case, we are talking about autonomous vehicle, is a very big user of this infrastructure. I will focus on that later on. And of course, the other application is in monitoring of land and monitoring of sea surface and many other places that would use this infrastructure. So increasingly, since 2015, when Singapore moved to smart cities and trying to develop this area, the infrastructure has become very important to push for smart city. And the next few slides I'm going to share with you, some pictures of what is the ongoing autonomous development, autonomous platform, autonomous vehicle platform that we have worked in Singapore. So you can see we have, so all these are passenger carry platforms. We have big buses, we have medium-sized buses, and some small-sized pod. And this is developed by a Singapore-based company called the Singapore Technology company, in order to put this on the road. So currently, a lot of tests are being carried out, and the locations is important for this, and GNSS is being used. Another company, another research company focusing on the autonomous vehicle for a passenger car. This is another private company that's working on us using RTK to drive this autonomous vehicle. So there are as many as 6 or 7 of these companies in Singapore now using the test site in Singapore and trying to put some of this vehicle on the road to test. So some of these companies started their work in 2017 and it's still an ongoing project. This is a system that is running in Garden by the Bay in Singapore. So this is a tourist spot where an operational system is already in place using GNSS and laser scanning data to drive the vehicle. A bus company also looking into this. So ComfortDelGro is a bus and looking at small pods like this that can operate on demand. Besides a big platform, there also companies are looking at autonomous scooter. In this case, a small company, a small startup called Scootd has been developing this autonomous scooter where you can use an app to call for the scooter and the scooter will come to you autonomously. And you can use it and you can. So this is a very good test about many types of mobility based on GNSS. Besides that, of course, there are many other robotic kind of application. These are also some kind of mobility. A sweeper that is autonomously controlled, and also some kind of a security system. In this case, autonomous civilian system to replace a police or to replace any kind of security officer on the ground, and all this can run autonomously based on GNSS. So I'll stop my presentation here, and I'll welcome any question on my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for your very informative talk, Dr. Victor Koo. And actually, this is the end of the series of the talks. And now, actually, we are very glad to welcome your questions or comments on that. And I believe, yes, please click the Q&A. Okay, even at this moment, we have 2 questions. The first one is, for myself, for me, let me read. Was this kind of data, probably the location data, on the people's location and the stay time shared with the government to inform policy decisions? If so, through what kind of process? And what can other countries learn from this engagement and the use of the GNSS data? Okay, yes. And actually, basically at first, the national government, cabinet office of the Japan government invited some sort of the proposals or kind of ideas on how to track or how to monitor the people movement and also the congestions, especially in some, let's say, the center of the cities or commercial areas or whatever. And very fortunately, we have a very good collaboration with kind of mobile network operators. And jointly, we developed a kind of platform. Yeah, of course, we have some sort of the platform even before that. But we apply such sort of the platform to extract the people congestions and also can compute the total stay time in order to inform the policy decisions. And I hope that the government may have refer or may use some such sort of the information to some extent. But at the same time, basically the what is provided to the government is just aggregated data. So that means there is no concerns or kind of risk of the privacy violation. And I believe that GNSS would be one of the most powerful data contents that the private sectors or even academia can provide to the government or public sectors, especially in the case of the COVID, for example, 19. And anyway, that is a kind of answer. So actually, in parallel with that, we have, as a university, distributed the analytic software to the some of the developing countries, especially in Africa, as an open source software, so that they can run that sort of the analytics engine to create or to monitor the people movement by themselves. And to this moment, I believe that the 3 African countries have already started in developing such sort of the people mobility data. Yeah, probably that could be a kind of good, probably experiences or kind of one of the kind of good practices for handling or using such sort of the data for the social benefit applications. Yes, and also let me just read the second question. Which GNSS system proved to be the most accurate and robust in Southeast Asia? I believe that Victor or Dr. Koo might be one of the best person to answer such sort of the questions. Okay, Dr. Koo, would you kindly have some sort of the answers?
Yep. Thank you.
Best GNSS.
I wouldn't be able to directly answer this question, but what we are seeing here is that in terms of GNSS application, there are 2 types generally. One is autonomously just rely on the signal from the satellite. The other type of the GNSS application or usage would rely on the ground infrastructure, such as the GNSS reference station that the different agencies have been installed on ground. So, for example, in Singapore, we have our Siren infrastructure, which is a GNSS reference station network. In Japan, you have your own reference station that you could share this reference station data to the user. In Thailand, they have their own reference station network. Malaysia, they have their own reference station network. And all these network ground stations would improve your GNSS positioning accuracy to centimeter level and will increase the reliability. So that's what I would say, yes. Yeah, I think someone talks about coarse network. That's precisely the term that we are using.
Okay, yeah, anyway, thank you very much. And actually, we have another question. It might be a little bit similar, but focusing on the autonomous vehicle. To have autonomous vehicle, we needed to course, or is there any other methods? Yeah, probably this is for actually the Victor. Yeah.
So having course is important. The reason is because autonomous vehicle would require very high accuracy, positioning accuracy, as well as reliability. So in Singapore's context, all our autonomous vehicle tests are run using are supported by a course infrastructure. So course infrastructure, the GNSS technology would give the very fundamental positioning or localization to the vehicle, but the vehicle itself will have other types of relative positioning techniques, such as LiDAR and radar. And some of these other techniques may be affected by the weather, may be affected by rain. And all these will have to complement each other. But GNSS is a must for this kind of application.
Okay. Okay, yeah, anyway, thank you so much. And is there any other questions from the floor or the audience? I see. Okay, so if not, I have just one kind of question to Dr. Lee, because you come from a little bit different kind of domain, international, and also the strongly policy-oriented organizations. And so far, we have, or at least I have a kind of impression that the transportation sector or transportation services usually belong to the public domain. So we expect the, let's say, public sectors may make something for the better transportation services, like or through the improvement of the road networks or the railway system development or whatever. But for example, we can learn even from the presentations in the first session, such as the talk by Mr. Tanapum and also the Professor Mafitsu. The core idea is how to share the existing resources like trucks or vehicles or some sort of the vacant places for parking. So I just wonder what kind of, let's say, policies could be developed or could be devised for supporting such sort of the sharing activities for the existing, I mean, the resources or infrastructures or even the vehicles or whatever. Dr. Lee, do you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, please. If you have any thoughts.
Actually, I'm not quite sure I get your point exactly, but in terms of sharing data from among vehicles and between vehicle to infrastructure, now, as you know, because V2I, V2V, and VTX is a quite common term for the smart transport system due to the like autonomous vehicles and smart mobility as well. So, but from the regional perspective, let me share 2 points, I think. The first point is, I think from the regional perspective, as you said in the presentation, because we have a big gap among member countries. So from the policy level, we encourage each government because to understand what they are really to do to provide a very fundamental basis. For example, like a traffic management center, because as you know, because in the traffic management center is kind of hub that collect all kind of data related to like transportation. So if some government has this kind of center, then it's quite easy to share all kind of data. Of course, you know, because for the services and also to provide any better policy decisions. So from the country level, in the smart transfer part, is quite difficult even in developed countries, because ITS, intelligence transfer system, smart transfer systems, because it's quite difficult to define which ministry or which public entity take care of. For example, transportation maybe is under the Ministry of Transport, but some countries is on the Ministry of ICT, right? So at the country level, we kind of encourage them, because how to harmonize these kind of different entities from their perspectives. So sharing data and sharing some policies, even at the country scale, because we try to provide some kind of the like a round table platform, so that all the stakeholders get together to understand the technology things and then the importance of the sharing data. So as you point out, because I'm very interested for your presentation as well, because you talk about some mobility itself, because now we are looking at the new era for the automation. So which means we need to think about autonomous vehicles, as you point out, the Singapore presenters, and at the same time like a mobility as a service. Because in the mobility as a service, of course, ITS is quite private driven, but at the same time, when we provide the public transport, the role of government is quite important. So as you point out, the harmonized sharing some kind of data information should be led by the public sector, which we emphasize always when we met the member countries. That's it.
I see. I see. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. And we have actually another question from the floor or the audience. That is what is the positional uncertainties in using single and dual frequency receivers? Again, probably I should invite Dr. Ku for your, the comments.
Yes. So I would have to say that in general, because I think what we do not know here, are we talking about a differential solution or is it autonomous solution here? But in general, single frequency, you would not be able to achieve anything that is sub-decimeter. But with dual frequency, one can achieve a sub-decimeter. What it means is that you can go to the centimeter level accuracy with dual frequency. And with single frequency, I have not heard that one can achieve sub-decimeter.
I see.
I hope I answered that question. It's a bit technical here.
Yeah. I think that I believe, anyway, you have provided any information to this question. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Okay, so if not, as a kind of, let's say, the very final round, may I invite, for example, Mr. Tanapon and also the Professor Mafito to say some sort of the comments about the future of your work or the impact on the society or whatever. Yeah, because so far, without the presentation, unfortunately, you don't have a chance to talk. So it's something like the final round of the seminar.
So this is Mafizer from Bangladesh.
Yes, please.
May I take some time, Sensei?
Yes, please.
Actually, I presented the whole thing in a very short time. But in the context of Bangladesh, considering the population and available road network,
I see.
the time and cost for transportation of goods is very challenging. But on the other hand, we are investing a lot on infrastructure development. So a lot of goods need to be transported to different places. And for that transportation, the transparency is very important because the major chunk of the pie is captured by the middlemen who actually don't provide any service or don't get any service, which means the end users and the service providers are big losers. So with the introduction of this gym, the system, they provided some app and they let the clients and the service providers register in the system. And the client can upload some query of transport of goods on the web, and eventually the end service providers can get hold of the information directly and they can quote the price of the support system, including the fact that they can also disclose the type of vehicle and the quality of driver they will provide, which means there is a very fair competition of price and there is no pilferage.
I see.
And the end user can choose based on the driver, or it may not always be the least cost. It may be a preference for vehicle, a good vehicle, or a good driver who can be appreciated through such system. So for infrastructure in Bangladesh or the ready-made garments, which are shipped to the port, this has huge opportunity. And also Bangladesh has a lot of special economic zone. And many of those are given to different countries, and also Japan has some of those economic zones. So use of such system could really enhance the transparency of these infrastructure projects or the economic zone. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, because many countries or many of us actually have the similar kind of issues, especially in the logistics, because many of the logistics enterprises or companies are relatively small. It's something like small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
And the market structure is not very transparent, and that creates a lot of kind of inefficiency. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sensei.
And Mr. Tanapum, would you like to have a kind of some final words?
Yes.
Yes,
So
please.
so I think I'm quite believe that in future, so autonomous car will come for sure. So I think this is our time to like to build the infrastructure to be ready for the future, and also for the location data, thing like that. I think right now we did not actually, from my point of view, in terms of commercials, so we can utilize all the data so much, but we did not do that much right now. So in terms of commercial, so what I did with my service, so I used location track to improve the customer experience, something like that. So we can cater the customer behavior and improve the business. Maybe we can get some new kind of business idea from all the data in terms of commercial. This is my comment. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, thank you very much. Even when we visit the other Asian major cities, we always have a kind of difficulty finding out the parking lots. Yeah, that your service would be really appreciated in many big the cities. Okay, so I think that this is the end of the symposium, but before the exact end of this session or kind of webinar, I would like to invite the S-Booster Secretariat to make some sort of an announcement about the S-Booster events. Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Shibasaki and all our guests for today's great presentation, and thank you all audience to share very nice questions. Before end this event, let me inform you some coming events. Okay. First of all, I'd like to introduce you about S-Booster. S-Booster is a space-based business idea contest hosted by the Cabinet Office of Japan. Additional value of this contest is the support to finalists by providing monitoring programs to brush up their business ideas. Applications open to Asia and Oceania region. At the final round, presentations are held in front of inventors, large companies, and etc. to promote business matching. Okay, now we have promotion video about S-Booster for 1 minute.
Put the most advanced space technology into your hands. Apply satellite data. We can help realize your dream. You can polish your business ideas together with experts who will provide the strong backup you need for success. S-Booster is hosted by the Cabinet Office of Japan with the support of JAXA and others. Startups from Japan, Asia, and Oceania compete against each other. You can be the next winner. Space is no longer far away. Draw closer to and pioneer a new business area.
宇宙と今まであまり接点がなかった分野の方々がどんどんと宇宙産業に入ってきてほしいですね。
S-Booster will accelerate the realization of your dream.
Okay, for additional information, you can also see detailed promotion video on the website. Then, application theme has 2 items. The first is business ideas for utilizing space asset in collaboration with Japan. Example are collaboration with Japanese companies or utilization of Japanese space assets. Another is business idea of the theme by sponsors. Entry of business ideas is scheduled in this spring. The qualifying is conducted in Japan and Asia round, respectively. The final round will be held in December. Method to participate will be online for some contestants because of the COVID-19. You can get detailed information on the website, which is being prepared step by step. Okay, then finally, we have next this webinar event on February 18th. So if you are interested to attend, please register and don't forget to join the next event as well. You can see far more information from the Gnss website and also the S Booster website.